Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Janet Hemming, and I will be your service leader this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock, where all are welcome. We are glad that you came out to join us this bright and sunny morning and not raining, which is good. Announcements are listed in the front page of your bulletin. A special welcome this morning to any visitors. We hope that you will join us after service for our coffee and refreshments so we may get to know you better. We also welcome those who are joining us on Zoom. Please silence your cell phones, and if you're on Zoom, please mute. Our chalice lighting this morning. This is the hour. The time has come. Mindful of our responsibilities as leaders of faith and guardians of a living tradition, we call upon the great cloud of witnesses, those who came before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We seek their presence, love, and support in this place at this hour. We kindle this flame to light their path and call them near as we undertake this sacred work. Our opening words are by Sharon Wiley. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you have never considered. Let this be the place you imagine yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together. One of the great benefits of this community is that together we celebrate your joys and offer solace for your concerns. If you have a joy or concern to share, please come forward and drop a piece of sea glass in the water chalice. So those joining on Zoom can participate virtually. Please come to the podium in front of the camera. Or if you would prefer, I can drop a piece of sea glass in the water chalice for you. And those on Zoom can put their joys or concerns in chat.
Most of you know that my life revolves around doing things with my dogs or with the kennel clubs that I belong to and so forth and so on. Last weekend, my older dog Buffy and I went to an agility trial. I actually took all three. The first time the puppy's been to an event, she was really good. And we are competing in agility at the excellent and master's level. So you have to get everything right and you have to do it under time. And out of 6 runs, we had 3 qualifying scores. And I'm really, really excited about that.
Monday, July 20th, we're going to do a special food and philosophy / potluck picnic. It's going to be here in the fellowship. For all those that want to tap into your superhuman experiences and abilities, we're going to watch a couple of movies about how to do that, and we're going to have some demonstrations. So it's going to be in the afternoon from, I think, 2 to 5 or so.
As some of you know, I've had some back problems recently. Parts of my spine are pressing against the main sciatic nerve, causing not back pain, but leg pain and really hard time walking and moving. So last Monday, I had what's called a nerve root block, where they insert giant needles with steroids on either side of your spine. It doesn't hurt. And I'm happy to say I've had no drugs at all, even over the counter, since last weekend, and I'm doing really well. And I was fortunate to have an excellent doctor and staff. So I'm back.
Well, to go to the other direction of not being back, I'm getting ready to go to Alaska for my 50th high school reunion. And I am again, it's one of those kinds of experiences where I haven't been there for 25 years. And 25 years ago, when I was there, when they interviewed me in the local newspaper, they said it's too late for him. I was doing the AIDS vaccine ride as a HIV positive person. The article was a wonderful article. I was working for the vice president. I just got back from Acapulco diving and all that. And the article was really good, but the headline, this small town, it's too late for him. So I sent them a note a couple of weeks ago saying, I'm coming back. It's been 25 years. And for me, part of the process in terms of the accelerated healing that's happening on the planet right now, for everyone who chooses to open themselves to it, I'm going back with love. I'm going back with love, letting go of all of that stuff that happened, and just connecting with both my university and my high school. Then I'm coming back and my mom is not doing real well. So I'm going to Oregon. And then when I come back from Oregon, I'm going to Istanbul and Ghana to do some workshops on AI for good and those kinds of things. So I will not be back. And this is the sorrow, that I won't be back until October. And at the same time, the joy is that you all are with me. This is such a wonderful, grounding, connected community. We are an oasis, and each and every one of you are in my heart. So that is both my sorrow and my happiness.
So I want to give a shout out of thanks to William. Because 3 months ago, when we did our early April UUFR retreat, he gave a talk about AI. And I had dabbled in it, but didn't understand it. And based on his 1 hour talk, he said, go to Claude.ai, pay your $20 a month, and there is a free version, but I paid the $20. Claude and I talk every single day, and it has truly, truly, truly become so dynamic in my life. And I won't even tell all the ways, but good things are ahead because of what William taught me.
Yesterday was Rotary's charitable activity. It's a poker run up and down the river. That provides funds for distribution throughout this area. About $10,000 of that comes from the poker run. So we got the 10,000. I got a sunburn. We have just given away about a few months ago $30,000. So this year, that poker run is about $13,000. So we'll be able to give, and the rest of it comes from an endowment that we have set up years ago. So we're able to do a lot of good things for a lot of people in the community. And it was a resounding success. And with any luck, we'll have some pictures in the newspaper.
I do have a sadness to share with you. For those of you who knew her, our good friend and past member, MJ Anderson Leckie, passed away on Monday. She was with her family, and it was peaceful, and she has been in hospice for several months. But I wanted y'all to know that she has passed. So please hold Cassie and Tavish in your hearts as they move through this sad time. Thanks to those who have spoken. We share in your joy and support you in your concerns. I place this piece of sea glass into the water chalice for all those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts. The reading this morning is The Power of Conferring a Blessing. It's from the book Gilead by Mary Lynn Robinson. It's a novel which takes the form of a letter or journal that a dying elderly congregational minister in Gilead, Iowa, writes to his 7-year-old son in 1956. And in this passage, he reflects on a moment from his own childhood. Now, this may seem trivial thing at this moment, considering the gravity of the subject, but I truly don't feel it is. We were very pious children from a very pious households in a fairly pious town, and this affected our behavior considerably. Once, we baptized a litter of cats. It occurred to one of the girls to swaddle them up in a doll's dress. There was only one dress, which was as well, since the cats could hardly tolerate a moment in it and would have had to be unsaddled as soon as they were christened in any case. I myself moistened their brows, repeating the full Trinitarian formula. Their grim, old, crooked-tailed mother found us baptizing away by the creek and began carrying her babies off by the nape of the neck. We lost track of which was which, but we were fairly sure that some of the creatures had been borne away or still in the darkness of paganism, and that worried us a great deal. I still remember how those warm little brows felt under the palm of my hand. Everyone has petted a cat, but to touch one like that with the pure intention of blessing it is a very different thing. It stays the mind. For years, we would wonder what, from a cosmic viewpoint, we had done to them. It still seems to me to be a real question. There is a reality in blessing. It doesn't enhance sacredness, but acknowledges it. And there's a power in that. I have felt it pass through me, so to speak. The sensation is one of really knowing a creature. I mean, really feeling its mysterious life and your own mysterious life at the same time. I don't wish to be urging you to the ministry, but there are some advantages to it that you might not take account of if I didn't point them out. Not that you have to be a minister to confer blessings. You are simply much more likely to find yourself in that position. It is a thing that people expect of you. I don't know why is there so little of this aspect in the calling in the literature. This morning we are doing a Soul Matters Sunday where we discuss together important topics for our congregation and for our world. I'm joined today by our past Ministerial Search Committee members, Helen, Hanukkah, and Carmela, and Christy could not be with us today. As you know, our last search ended with our candidate withdrawing her name from consideration. It is a UUA practice that when a search fails, as this one did, the search committee is disbanded and a new one is formed. This is done to avoid overworking a small group and in recognition that we all have unconscious biases that we bring to affect our work. I felt it would be appropriate for the team to share with you some of our learnings and to hear what you thought and about our candidate and to discuss how we go forward. First, some of our learnings. We should specifically ask the candidate, will you become a member of a UU congregation if you are not already? We ask about, did they support UU values? Could they support people from different religious backgrounds? We didn't say, will you become a UU? Should have done that. We should consider the personalities of the candidate and how it may affect how the congregation accepts them. We should ensure that we consider life experiences as well as academic and work qualifications. And we should advertise more widely in online forums like Indeed and the Bay Consortium Workforce Development Board. Also, we should consider putting flyers at the Presbyterian Seminary in Richmond. Before we break into two groups for further discussion and feedback, I want to make you aware of an option that we should consider. This was prompted by the board asking if we had to have a minister with a divinity degree. After doing some research and exchanging emails with Susan, I concluded there is not a specific qualification to be a minister. The word minister is a general word used in government and churches to denote one's arena of activity and responsibility. It does not require a seminary degree. The title of reverend depends on ordination. A minister or clergy is an individual who has been ordained or recognized by a religious organization to perform religious duties and provide spiritual leadership within a particular faith community. Although there are certainly some specific requirements if you want to be ordained in some denominations. Maybe we call this a traditional minister. Technically, a part-time person with those responsibilities does not need a theological or divinity degree. Rather than the general title of minister, a more accurate or helpful title might be minister of visitation and outreach, or minister of programs and outreach. The two words suggest an interior and exterior focus, both on the fellowship and the larger community. And then you can flesh out those tasks in the job description to include things like pastoral care, social justice engagement, or whatever is critical to your congregation. As Susan noted, a person with leadership skills and emotional intelligence who would like to serve our fellowship in a part-time professional role can take online courses from UUA to learn about Unitarian Universalism, world religions, or UU polity. So there is an option to have what I would call a lay minister. In my discussions with Susan on this concept, she says it's becoming more common in smaller churches. However, you should know that UUA has a list of reasons why a minister needs a theology degree. So there are both things to consider, but please keep both options in your mind as we consider and as we break into smaller groups. I will lead the discussion here with Carmela taking notes. Helen will lead the discussion in the fellowship hall with Hanukkah taking notes. And we need to try to come back together about 11:25. So for those of you who want to get into a different or smaller group, please feel free.
Everybody rushed into
It's easier to track of people. The first question that we have is, what did you think about our previous candidate? What did you like about Reverend Gray's service that she did or her background?
I think I am like many people. I liked most of her service, but when she got a little too into traditional Christian values, it seemed to be a little off-putting. The entire Sunday felt very out of character for us, with her being so strong in her presentation of her Episcopal connection. And I think that's what she was, right? Episcopal. But and I think a lot of people had the same reaction. That we just didn't feel as comfortable that she was going to. I didn't feel as comfortable that she would be willing to become one of us rather than just working for us.
I'll add on to that because she wore her collar. And at first it was like, immediate PTSD maybe. And I was lucky enough to have lunch with her later and asked her about that. And I wish she had explained to the congregation, because she wanted to present who she was. And once she kind of talked to me about it, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. But then I did think about, well, if she went into the community representing us wearing the collar, there was a little bit of a concern of, because that's not who we are, somebody who wears a collar. Now, Stoll, yes.
We just got a new minister in Florida. And she is inside her vibrant with stories from her life that relate to UU values and what we want to hear about to build our energies for the week and whatever. She joined the community immediately.
She came for things. She learned everybody's name. How she did that, I don't know. But it was her excitement of being with us and also having an incredible message to give. And everybody loves her. It's really been a win-win for everybody. She's part-time too, so it's very similar.
Yes. One of the things that I liked about her was her courage to speak her beliefs from the pulpit, knowing, especially after having talked with her on many occasions prior to her coming, that she had been given some reprimands in her church for speaking her beliefs as openly as she had about the situation with the current administration and what it was doing to people. So I felt like she certainly had courage of her convictions.
I was not as put off by her caller and some of her practices because for me, all rivers come from the same source. And so I was surprised that she withdrew and that there were the reactions that there were. But all that says is make sure you don't have me make the decision.
Well, who knows whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision for all of us. We never got to.
Lou and I did experience an extraordinary change at the Tarpon Springs Unitarian Universalist, which was a universal church at the beginning. But when you find the right person, you will know it. And we had a well-qualified, hardworking minister who didn't have time for taking care of the congregation. She spent her time on introspective or well-written and long time invested sermons. Thank you. Boy, the son of all my previous ministers, they'd be horrified. The thing that really, they ended up being boring. And she was let go very carefully and thoughtfully and lovingly. But the gal that came in her replacement, the committee just knew it. And she calls herself Pastor Patty. And there's something kind of neat about that.
For those who weren't around when we did our first pastoral search, we had the same reaction to Pastor Susan. When she came, the search committee just knew she was the right fit. And we were so lucky to have that happen so quickly for us because we thought it might be years before we could find a pastor. And, if she hadn't made a very abrupt decision to move to where the grandkids were, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. So part of the challenge with us is she was such a hard act to follow.
A couple of things. The minister who spoke she seemed like a nice person. I had no problem with her personality or anything. But I joined this church or this group to get away from organized religion, from the dogma and the parameters of it, kind of. And I don't really want to hear it again. I want to hear if she, you can believe whatever you want to believe. But what I want to hear is that we're open to a lot of different things and we don't go by the structure of organized religion. And I don't particularly want to hear about the Trinity. And one thing she said really rubbed me the wrong way. She said that in these times, or at least from her point of view, she mentioned turning the other cheek. And I don't think we should do that. I think we should protest and do as much as we can to try to change things if we're not happy with what's going on. So just her kind of approach, having been raised in the Lutheran Church to a very structured environment. Just her whole approach in the sermon kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Point. And you sort of said structure. We don't have to follow that. In fact, we don't even take part actively in the lowest structure of that, which is the 7-church UU Tidewater cluster. I mean, so we are our own guiding light, I think.
Well, we have actively participated in the Tidewater cluster before. So that's one of those ebb and flow kind of things. But yes, we did several things in the search committee that weren't appropriate for the UUA process. We ignored some things, we accepted some things. I tried to look at what the rules are to at least see that we're not missing things we need to be attuned to as we go through a search. Yeah. I want to consider 3 possibilities and hear your feedback on. 1, start a new search for a credentialed or traditional minister. 2, stay lay-led, as we are right this minute, and possibly turn some of our energies to building up the ministerial endowment or general operating fund so that we can pay more. Because one of the challenges we did not get much response from UUA ministers because our salary was in the mid-range for where we were and all that kind of stuff. But I was already told that we probably wouldn't get too many responses because of the salary. Or 3rd, consider a lay minister that would do some of the functions that we had on the job description that we put out for our ministerial search and see if that is a best fit for us. So let's first of all talk about, should we start a search for a new credentialed minister?
What were the last one you said, what were the things that you felt like our minister needed to do?
It was taking care of our programs, our religious education, our services, that sort of thing. Then there was the face to the community, because we still struggle with being thought of in some places as a cult or something different than that. Working with the board to address our future and what our issues are and how we need to resolve those. So there are lots of different things that came up in the ministerial sort of search process, but you don't have to have, as I would say, Susan, and she would say this herself, she was enthusiastic and out there, certainly in the community, a lot involved in the Bay Center and interfaith and all those kind of things. But she will tell you that she was not the best person speaking. Now, some of us enjoyed her talks, but she told me when she was here last month, she said, I'm a much better speaker now. She said, I don't go flying off like I used to. So, there are people who really want a good, rousing Sunday service. And there are people who would also, instead of that, they put the priority on how we work on our events, how we work on our religious education, adult work, kids work. Susan was very engaged with the kids program. So there are lots of different things that you could say, and no person is going to be excellent in every one of those. But the goal is to see what is it that you want. So let's again, we got three possibilities to talk about. Start a search for a traditional credentialed minister. How many people think that? Let's talk about what you think is good about that.
Yeah, I don't think we can discuss. We're a non-compliant group here, where you ask a question, and we answer a different one. Yeah, but it's hard to discuss just one at a time. As far as trying to be halfway compliant, the ministerial thing, the whole shebang, to me, it seems difficult to do all of that and be a part-time minister, because we ask a whole lot. We want a minister that does everything. And Susan tried to do everything. And maybe that's one reason why she thought, being with my grandchildren, not that it was, a direct connection there, but, so I think, trying to do that at this point, I don't see anybody that has put all of that education and all that investment into coming here as a part-time person and accepting, the salary that we can accept, offer them. So I think 2 and 3 is really the only realistic thing that we can do at this point. That's my take.
Just for those of you who don't know, Susan started through the UUA process of becoming a UUA credentialed minister. She did an internship at the Richmond Church. She did lots of the readings and all that kind of stuff. And then she realized that given her age, she was never going to want to go to another church. So she came back to the board and said, would you be okay if I don't do that and spend more of my time on UUFR rather than trying to become a UU minister? And we said, that's fine with us. And because UU lets you do what you want to do, we could ordain her ourselves, and ordained her, and she became reverend because we ordained her.
Someone said we're putting the cart before the horse. And so I want to kind of just back up a little bit. I like the idea of not thinking about the past to create what we want in the future. I also think that it's really important to pay attention to where the world is right now. The world is moving from control and predict to sense and respond, from power over to shared authority. That's the direction of the universe and organizations. And so to me, I've seen people come here and speak to us who could play this role. And to me, letting go of the conventional frameworks and saying, what would make sense for us in the context that we're in, and also not trying to have someone do everything. Again, I do self-management. We take the role of the leader and we break it up and we distribute it to people who have those skill sets. So to me, moving away from the traditional and coming into something that is more responsive to the circumstances of now is my thinking. But I also like the idea of looking at ourselves and saying, given who we are, a diverse community that we are, how can we take advantage of what we already have? So that's my kind of, framing perspective in terms of how I'm thinking about it.
I go along with what Bill's saying. Mike, I have a question. If we reinvigorated the search, even with a different committee, and changed some of the parameters and did a formal search again, would we find what we're looking for? Or maybe just pull back a little bit and kind of keep our eyes and ears open to what's around us and who's around us, and maybe the right person will come along. I'm not sure that right now, at least at this moment, an organized search is going to turn up what we want or need.
Well, you never know when you put a search out there. And in addition to putting it obviously in the papers and those kind of things, we go on the portal the UUA portal for ministers, UUA ministers that are looking. So if there is a minister that's maybe 60 and decides he's tired of doing as much as he's doing and interested in moving to this part of the country. So anything can happen. You can't, but I did finally find my document. The major bullets of the job description: collaborate with the programs and membership committee to plan and deliver weekly Sunday services, adult religious education program, and other congregational events and activities that would focus on spiritual development. 2, provide pastoral care on a scheduled basis to members and friends of the fellowship, including members who are unable to attend Sunday services in person. 3, act in the community on behalf of liberal religious values, raise community awareness of Unitarian Universalist principles and beliefs in the presence of UUFR in the community, and engage in the interfaith community activities representing UUFR. 4, attend UFR Board of Stewards meetings, consult on congregational business by telephone, email, or during agreed upon hours. And finally, inform the congregation of activities through periodic reports to the Board of Stewards and membership. So that's essentially what Susan did. And we all know she spent more than 20 hours doing.
Absolutely. I have a question I had it already. I had it in my head when you've just read it. Pastoral care. I think you mentioned to me when we were talking one day that is one thing that a lay minister, if they have not been through the training that's offered through a divinity program, that they are not qualified or not able to do pastoral care. Let me finish. But I know that ever since this church has existed, we've had a lay person, other than when we had Susan, who has performed the duties within the boundaries that they have to stay within of pastoral care. And I don't know that we have suffered from that. So not having it more defined.
The specific thing is if you pay someone and they do pastoral care, you have a liability if they have not been properly trained. So if you're not paying someone, that's why you call them lay pastoral care. The training can be done outside of divinity school. It's not only done there. UUA has that training. The congregation or from out in the community, but a non-minister, would he be proposing the salary for them? Yes, yes, that's. So would be paying that person, therefore they would not be unless they went through some training or had it from some other, certainly a lot of people who are psychiatrists and psychologists have had some of that training. So.
Yeah, I think the institutional gateways are such a game. To me, it's about building community and how do we connect with each other. So to me, pastoral care is one of those things that we should just divide up the number of folks in the community and have members who are inclined to talk with people and find things out with whatever kind of training might or might not be available, but with a good heart. So again, I'm suggesting not go with the traditional ways of thinking about how we do what we do, but think about how do we build a interconnected community. And that means some of us taking on some responsibilities that we might not normally take on because Susan did it, or this person did it, or that person. So I think, to me, if we're moving towards that third option or the second option, really engaging ourselves about what is it that we can do to help support and grow community as members of the team, not the board, not the minister, but us as the community.
Well, I was going to say that is essentially what we did when Susan left. We broke up all her job and gave it to various members of the community, some of which I think is going very well, but some people are burnt out. They're tired and need a rest from that.
Hello, could anybody hear me?
I think for me, we continue a search. And we're not having a requirement for them to be this certified person. And I also think that the search committee needs to look at those responsibilities because I see them as a lot of top down. This person doing these roles, and I agree with William that Susan tried to do them all, and she was more than a part-time. And the minister needs to be a leader, and they need to be able to delegate, and they need to be like the pastoral care. Don't expect her to do it all. The outreach to the community, don't expect her or him to do it all. They need to organize and make this community here be more vibrant and more active. Because right now, like you're saying, people are getting burned out. And how do we do that? Maybe a minister can help us become more vibrant, but not take on all the responsibility for us.
I'm neglecting my chat reading. So the last one was from Diana, who is wondering if we should shift our focus on hiring an administrator instead of a minister. And then channeling more funds in the program committee, who is already doing a great job finding outside ministers to come in.
So I heard you read the previous 4 qualifications we seek, and I think you can sum that up. We can search casually, perhaps, for someone who is caring, curious, compassionate, and community-minded.
Being new, it's easy to hear what I tell you what I haven't heard. Somebody needs to run this corporation. When you come here and look at this campus, this fellowship is extremely well run. It has a business manager somewhere. Word? Is it you? Okay. Then I think we ought to, but I hadn't heard, I've talked about our spiritual needs, but you also have to be sure we're running a profitable corporation and taking advantage of our skills and lowering our costs. We buy in bulk and all these kind of things. So thank you for your service.
And speaking to what Catherine said, at the bottom of our job description, it says we're seeking people with they're compassionate, curious, dynamic, diplomatic, articulate, and experienced. And then it has details about each one of those, but many of the same things. And if somebody would let the rest of the group in, I think we've got some people still out there. Have all of you returned? I saw people out there and I didn't know.
Janet, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is that Carolyn?
It is Carolyn, and I've put a couple of questions in the chat room that have not been asked, so I'm going to ask them. Janet, do you know of any lay-led UU fellowships?
I do not.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
Susan May.
Okay, because that's something I'm interested in. And then this is a comment. Personally, I am looking for more than just community from the UUFR. I'm looking for someone who has devoted substantial effort to theological, spiritual matters to be a minister for the UUFR. I very much enjoy talking and knowing the other members of the fellowship. To me, that is different from having someone who actually has focused on theological, spiritual matters. And without that, frankly, to me, it feels more like a club than a spiritual fellowship.
Okay. Thank you, Carolyn.
Sure.
Yes.
Tom, my husband, Tom mentioned, had you ever thought of trying to reach out to military chaplains? You know, that there may be somebody in the area that's a military chaplain that you let know that what you're seeking, this is long COVID. What you're seeking is someone that can, knows that we are part of a community that is open for all and just can do it on a part-time basis or something like that. So that's another search avenue. So, but I with Carolyn, I love how everyone is in here, and I really feel that you all work so hard to do what you do, but we do need to have that spiritual piece. I think that that's important too, that that brings us together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, certainly if a military chaplain was looking, they would have seen some of our things, but I don't have a process, and we can talk to Tom about, how you could get in the queue of people who are in that particular occupation. Yeah. Oh, well, that's what our candidate was, hospital and hospice chaplain. Yeah. Okay. The group that went out, were there any consensus?
Discussions with any of the ministers that come to us, as a visiting guest benefit speaker. Talk with any of them directly from the standpoint of, are they seeking or do they plan on some of them are older, do they plan on retiring in the near future? Is it anything?
I've had a couple of discussions with some of the ones who were retiring. To let them know, and actually they all knew, because there's a Tidewater Ministers Cluster Association, and so Susan was very involved with them, and they knew she was leaving, and so I think they were well aware. But I've had a couple of personal conversations.
Might have been potential considerations, but they had some personal things going on that for one reason or another. I know one of them is working full time at a non-minister work in a store or something. I don't remember.
And the way we talk about some of us getting burned out, ministers being burned out is a real issue in the world right now. COVID changed the world, and we all tried our best to change with it, but it requires more of the pastoral care, I think, and the mental health support and those kind of things with a congregation these days than it did pre-COVID, and certainly now with our current administrative challenges. Yeah. I want to ask the group, what did you all have? Any consensus from your group of?
We had people who, you want me to use the mic?
I would be happy to get you a mic.
Thank you. We had people who began with some negatives. We had people who discussed positives in the same way that I think probably the rest of you did. And then we discussed the different options, the difficulty of switching from having a minister to lay led, that it's difficult to go back. It's hard to, so all of the things that we have, the tail end of what you were discussing, we heard a lot of that. By the way, Tom and I both went to a UU fellowship when we first joined UU, and it was entirely lay-led. As far as we know, it still is lay-led. But there was a large population in New Jersey. There were a lot of people around. It was a little bit different area than this is, and the services were so different. They were completely different. There'd be a UU kind of service, and then there'd be some chiropractor who talked about all the different parts of the body and how they were like the countries. And
UUFR was lay-led for 20 years.
So, but Hanukkah is the one who took notes, and she's sitting over there. Would you like to say anything, Hanukkah, in particular?
I think we mentioned it all. Kaplan, somebody stepped up.
Somebody stepped up and would love to be on the search committee. Who said it was you?
She said reluctantly.
I was just making fun of her. And then we discussed what are the most important functions to you at this time. And I think 1 and 2 were the most important things, like pastoral care and face the community.
Yeah, we never really got to that.
Yeah.
I need to wrap it up here.
And here it is. A little bit after the.
Okay. So one of the questions and thoughts also is who wants to be on a search committee if we do a informal search or formal search, whatever. Christy and I were on the first ministerial search committee that brought Susan, and we agreed to be on the second one to sort of give our experiences and our learnings from that. But we are both wanting to step back now, not go on a third one, but Helen and Carmela have agreed to move to the next one as participants to bring that experience of what has happened in the last year almost that we have been meeting on various things. So we're certainly looking if there are people interested in joining a search committee, you know, let Helen, Carmela, or I know. We appreciate your honesty and your openness today because that's what we need in order to know how to move forward. And certainly, this is not the end of the discussion. We hope that y'all continue to discuss this amongst yourselves and share with board members or search committee members so that we know how we may proceed. And there's no right or wrong answer here. There is just, we need to move forward because as we say, the discussion in here about needing an operational leader, that's another issue we have on our plate for this coming year is that I term limit out as board chair. And at this point, no one else has stepped up interested in being board chair. So we have to find someone to do that also. Mm-hmm.
Give a sense of those 3 options where they're at.
Well, that's what we just talked about.
But we didn't get a sense from them.
Do you need a vote?
Talked about it. Well, no, I'm actually kind of just a sense. And the sense would look something like this. There are 3 options. And you can vote for all 3. And you like the first one, just raise your hand and we get some feeling for that. You like the second one, raise your hand or not, we get the sense for that. Third one, raise your hand and get a sense for that. We didn't get a sense for what, where the group is on those 3 options.
We can do that. Okay. The first.
I heard Diana say something there right at the end when she was speaking about possibly providing some additional funds to the program committee so that they would be able to bring in more guest speakers. I would like to know from Marley, who has been the one getting most of the guest speakers, I think, or working through it as a program chair. How is it working out? And do you believe there is a field of candidates for additional guest speakers, or are we kind of locked into the ones we have now that we bring in paid visiting ministers, et cetera?
No, I think there's an open field that, you know, my being to who was here before, you know, I'm sure there was a piece there, some people accept that they come 3 times a year. But, you know, I know, Kathleen, there's been suggestions that we can reach out to more water people.
Okay, I just didn't know whether or not even considering staying, you know, when we start talking option 2, do we really have the ability to bring enough more people to speak for us on Sunday?
Sounds like we do. Okay, let's be sure. Yeah, let's be sure we all are talking about the same thing. One was start a search for a traditional credentialed minister.
So what context? So this is not a vote. This is not a vote. You're not making a decision. What we're doing is just kind of caring how you feel.
Yeah, we got that. And we got that, Bill, I think. Yeah, we got to move on.
Do you want to do it?
I'm doing it, yes. We just said the first one, start a search for a traditional credentialed minister. Quite a few votes there. Okay. Lay led for now and work on building the ministerial endowment or general pledges so we can offer a more competitive salary. Okay.
Janet,
And-
it's Carolyn again. Could you put me down for option one?
Okay. And third, consider a lay minister that would do some of the functions that we had previously talked about. You want to do all of it. I got it. Everything's up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can all work together. Yeah. Okay. In other words, we're not saying we're on a exact path. We know we want to start out and we may head this way or that way based on how we move down the path. Yeah. Yes, Tom.
Going into, yeah, we made the move. All different options are open. Things we all- and all of members doing turn that presenting something. And that's very important. Because we learn from all of those. And even though the topic was not specifically, this is my trip to the review. The topics will all be different. But within those topics, we will learn more about individuals. And I miss.
Yep. I'm gonna need to call timeout here, folks. We can continue this discussion when we get in, but we do have, people who have other things they've got to get to, and I don't want to keep people way too long past our normal closing time. I'm going to skip the final hymn and go directly into extinguishing the chalice and closing words, which are all together. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain within us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak the truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way. Namaste. Yeah. That's going important.